My name is Christina Nikitina. I'm a 10th grade student at Vanna Kalmaya Gymnasium for Adults. Today's interview topic is tourism in Estonia. Our guest today is Julia Bonashova, who is a tourism representative, and she's a professional tour guide. Hello, Julia.
Hello.
According to the data of Entrepreneurship Development Fund in Estonia, Estonia was visited by 1.8 million foreign tourists in 2011. So what makes Estonia such an attractive country for tourism?
First of all, in Estonia we have some new airline connections open with different countries, and it makes Estonia be easy accessible for different tourists from other countries. And also the fact that Estonia is a pretty small country but with a great number of very interesting sites here, so this also makes Estonia quite interesting and attractive country.
Which countries give the highest influx of tourists to Estonia?
Our tourism quite heavily depends on the Finnish market, I should say, and that was probably through all the times. Approximately 65% of the whole tourists that visit our country, these are mostly tourists from Finland. Since the previous year, the second group of tourists are Russian tourists. For example, in the previous year, the growth in the Russian market was 46%. So nowadays, Russian market is the, let's say, second largest market in our tourism. And also we have other groups like Brits, and for example in the previous year also British market had a growth of approximately, if I remember right, about 100%. And also, let's say, tourists from United States, tourists from Spain and Italy, they're also quite interested in Estonia.
So does the statistic take into account the guests from Russia that come to visit their friends and relatives here?
I presume that yes, because for example, there is also the statistics of the people who are crossing the border. In this case, we can check how many, let's say, tourists from Russia have crossed the border, even those who come to visit their relatives. But also we might have another statistics that takes into account just tourists that stay in hotels. So in this case, we do not have those people who are visiting their relatives.
So the income of Estonian enterprises solely from tourism made 1.2 million euro last year, which is 130 million euro higher than the year before. So which significant events in Estonia could have affected these numbers?
Well, first of all, as we already mentioned, new airline connections. Second thing, but probably most important thing, is the fact that in the previous year Tallinn was the cultural capital of Europe, which was a very attractive event for lots of countries, and probably lots of people found out the existence of Estonia, so that's why they came here. Also one more very important thing in tourism was the fact that Estonia in the previous year had joined the Eurozone, which is also quite important for tourists, because for example, as you probably know, Estonia, as the part of the Baltic states, quite often it's sold as one part of the Baltic tours. And you can imagine those tourists who come to visit 3 Baltic countries, Estonia, Latvia and Lithuania, they can be absolutely confused with currencies. And for example, 2 years ago we had Estonian krone. Estonian krone was cheaper than euro. Then in Latvia there are lots which are more expensive than euro. So you can imagine when people travel through these 3 countries, they have 3 different countries with different values. So it made, too difficult. It was pretty difficult for tourists to, let's say, understand all these prices and all these currencies. But when Estonia had joined Eurozone, so now for tourists it's just easier to understand prices, and that can be also quite attractive.
Right, that makes sense. So, according to the latest ranking of competitive ability of tourism compiled by the World Economic Forum, Estonia's tourism is the most developed out of all the Baltic countries. Which indicators of development of the tourist sector are taken into account in the research of the competitive ability of tourism?
First of all, this is safety for tourists. Also, different kind of tourist legislations. Also, probably business. Well, let's say business climate in Estonia, which is let's say pretty good for the enterprises here, and of course infrastructure. In total, there are 14 different kind of indicators taken into account.
Which kinds of tourism are most popular in Estonia?
In Estonia, well, first of all, probably cruise industry, because nowadays Tallinn is the third largest cruise ship port on the Baltic Sea. So we have lots of cruise ships during the summertime. Well, as you know, our tourism season, we have high tourism season and low tourism season, so tourism is quite seasonal here. High tourism season, that's the period from the beginning of May up to the end of September, beginning of October, and this is the time when we have lots of cruise ships in our harbor. So in the previous year, for example, during the high tourism season, during the summertime, we had more than 300 cruise ship arrivals in our ports, more than 425,000 cruise ship tourists in the summertime during the summertime in Tallinn. So it's actually more than the population of our capital. And also next year, as I know, our Tallinn port is going to open one more cruise ship harbor for cruise ships, so we will be able to, let's say, accept more cruise ships at one time. And also, we're talking about the cruise ship industry. For example, the previous year, at the middle of June, during one day, we had 6 cruise ships in our harbor. So it means like 10,000 cruise ship tourists walked in Old Town at one time, plus 3,500 members of the crews of the cruise ship. So that's a huge amount of tourists. So cruise ship industry, that's one thing. Also, this is different kind of like wellness industry, like spas and mud baths and everything. So as you know, most of our spas are located and mud baths are located in Pärnu, and also we have also quite big number of spa hotels in Estonia. So it's also quite attractive. And individual tourists, so individual tourists.
And which media outlets are the most effective for the advertisement of the offered travel services?
Probably nowadays internet. Internet, especially here in Estonia. Estonia is one of the most developed in IT sector country in Europe. So internet is, let's say, one of the ways that can be used for advertisement.
Which trends can be observed in today's tourism?
Nowadays tourists, they are quite knowledgeable about the country that they are visiting. So nowadays, people who work in tourism industry, they must accept tourists that are absolutely knowledgeable about the country that they are visiting. So this is probably one of the, let's say, main trends. And also people are trying to arrange everything by themselves. This is also the fact that must be well understandable for lots of for all the tourism workers, that nowadays tourists, they can organize their trip by themselves. They can book their tickets by themselves. They can book hotel by themselves. They can book some make some kind of, let's say, a program by themselves. So all the let's say tour agencies, tourism agencies, they must take it into account.
As you may know, on the 28th of February this year, a meeting will be held in Finland among the participants of our program that is called Comenius, Business Ideas for the Future. And you have a chance to say a word to them if you want. Would you like to say something?
Yes, first of all, to students, probably good luck in their studies. And of course, I would like to wish you to have a great business ideas and of course to realize them in the future. Good luck.
So thank you so much for your interview. You have helped us a lot. Thank you.
Thank you.